Hey, what's up? This is Mikey for Electrek, and in this video, I'll tell you about my week with the Nissan Ariya electric crossover. Nissan uses words like refined, elegant, and exhilarating, and they seem to think that they're targeting a new electric customer looking for a luxury trip to a dinner party with a badge that can still blend in at the supermarket. But in my mind, I'm asking myself, can the Ariya, Nissan's second electric vehicle, redeem the company after squandering a 10-year lead in the space? Let's find out. Thanks for watching Electrek. All right, first up, I'm not going to dance around it. Let's touch on pricing. The Ariya is competitively priced, but it's not on the cheap side among its peers. We'll get into why that is, but for now, the cheapest listing for the Ariya is called the Engage for $43,190. The base model has the smaller battery with only 215 miles of range. But something surprising is that the standard version also has the leather-trimmed seats and steering wheel, heads-up display, power sliding center console, and heated seats. That's pretty good for a starting point. Now, unfortunately, Nissan doesn't make it easy, having not only 5 different trim levels, but all-wheel drive options and battery size options tacked on the list. This gives you 8 different trim levels, 9 if you count the 20-inch wheels on the high end. That's the Engage, the Venture, the Evolve, the Empower, the Platinum, the E-Force, the Plus, who knows? So to break it down for you a little bit, the 4-wheel drive models are called E-Force, and the Plus in the name, that one designates the larger battery. Now, even though the car is already released, Nissan sent us a pre-production version of the highest trim level. That's the Platinum Plus E-Force. Has a starting price of $60,190, and honestly, I'm kind of glad they did because we get to check out a bunch of cool features like the 4-wheel drive, Nissan Pro Pilot, the moonroof, camera for the rear view mirror, and much more. So let's go ahead and get to it, starting with my favorite part, the interior. The interior is definitely a big win for the Ariya. If you like space and quality materials, you'll be happy nestled into the comfortable seats and easy touch points for each occupant. The velvet-like dashboard material with uniform stitch pattern, it follows the front doors, the B-pillar, and the rear passengers area. Now, likewise, this handsome faux wood across the dash, it extends into the center console and into the rear, and copper-colored lines and accents give it a pinch of classy color. Now, along with the trim, there are some accent lights that are adorned with a pattern that is inspired by the andon lanterns from the Japanese Edo period. This indeed gives a sense of depth and warmth to the interior, honestly one that I really appreciate. But while this pattern also speckles other parts of the interior, and even a teeny bit on the exterior, I am a little bit troubled when you reach out to touch it. It feels like cheap plastic. It is cheap plastic, and that's too bad. The center console houses controls for the drive mode and the secret compartment following the copper trim, and the armrest feels really nice, plenty wide for the driver and the passenger. The top of the center console also slides forward and back using a motor, which is great considering that they can meet the driver and passenger wherever they are. In a long rest, maybe charging the car or sitting around, the moving console and seat combo feels like you've opened up a new room. Of course, provided that the people in the back don't mind, if they're even there. Now, Nissan has a clever storage compartment that extends from the middle of the dashboard. This keeps things totally out of sight and can double as a platform for holding a tablet or small laptop. Human space on the interior is really nice, as it has no transmission tunnel to worry about like pretty much every other electric vehicle. Now, I can comfortably get in the back seat, myself being 6 feet tall, but folks taller than me, they might be a little bit let down. Now, aside from that, I have no complaints about the back seat, and the seats are plush, really great comfort. The heated seats and USB access is very accommodating, and the panoramic sunroof makes it feel a lot bigger in the cab than it really is. Now, while the passenger space is really nice, storage is limited overall. The center console that houses the drive mode and other controls, and the motor to slide itself around, well, it turns out that that space is occupied by all that stuff. The center console itself can carry 2 cups and maybe 2 phones, but the result is that there's no front place for a purse or a backpack. So in practical terms, the floor space between the driver and passenger, a lot of times that's fine, but if you're worried about things sloshing around under the drive pedals, for example, then you would be best to have your passenger put their stuff in the back seat. Now on top of that, the trunk is not terribly spacious either. Now it's decent considering the sloping roof line, but without a front trunk, this crossover really seems limited in terms of storage and more designated for city life, which actually is okay because I want to talk about the 4-wheel drive. The four-wheel drive in this car is pretty good, but you might be surprised to hear why. Now, instead of a rock crawler, this four-wheel drive system is built for the road. Nissan calls their technology E-Force, and it adds extra security and grip for bad weather and slippery conditions. I got to try out this technology on a test mule last year, and it was a lot of fun trying to trick the system. It kept me in the intended line very well. So driving around town, the four-wheel drive actually had something to do. Now I have to qualify this saying that I was looking for this benefit, and I think that I found it. It's very subtle, to say the least. I put some other folks in the car and they said they couldn't tell a difference. So take this for what it's worth. Perhaps it's just me wanting this to exist because I do like the concept and I do like what Nissan is going for. Nissan has customized the acceleration curve for really smooth action, and they've actually done the same with deceleration. Pressing on the brake pedal will gently slow down the car within the same stopping distance, and it translates into a calm and relaxing drive for all the occupants. That fling or that lurch forward that you feel when someone steps on the brakes, it's greatly mitigated, which, fingers crossed, means less backseat driving. Now, I should note that if you stand on the brake pedal, it's just going to cancel that out and come to a stop. It behaves just as normal as far as pushing on the brakes or pushing on the gas or throttle. So, like I said, I might just be looking for this benefit because I really enjoy a smooth ride, and I'm glad that somebody out there, like Nissan, is doing the same thing for on-road applications. Because let's be honest, people get these crossovers, but they don't use them off-road. I mean, people say that they will, I say that I will, but 95% of the time, I'm not. Now, that four-wheel drive tech combined with somewhat narrow wheelbase for the vehicle and a high stance and wide shoulders, this makes the Ariya feel fairly nimble compared to other EV crossovers. It's not as sporty as the Mach-E, but I would say it's a lot tighter than the Ioniq 5 or even the ID4. Now, the strength of the Ariya is either around town or on the wide open road. Now, the Ariya really speaks to my desire to drive for the sake of driving. The stellar interior, the intuitive drive feel, the tall riding position, it all gives a sense of serenity and safety. Now, Nissan has spec'd the Ariya with either a 63 or 87 kilowatt-hour battery. Along with other features, the range estimates Nissan publishes are scrambled through the lineup. The lowest range possible is actually not from the base model, but instead from the base model with all-wheel drive. That one gets 205 miles of range. The highest range comes from the Venture Plus with a single motor. Now, there are no other Venture trims in the lineup, which leads me to believe that they made that version just for trekking. Now, Nissan says the Ariya can do 150 kilowatts of charging, which is fine for me. I noticed some independent testing out there which shows a fairly stable charge curve of about 130 kilowatts. That's pretty good. So if you're new to EVs, this is a number that manufacturers usually fudge in advertising. So Nissan actually did pretty good on this one. All right, so this is all sounding well and good, but what are the downsides to the Nissan Ariya? Well, I'll start with my experience with the Advanced Driver's Assist. It really wasn't all that great. It wasn't bad. It was still there, but I worry that it's going to be behind the times very quickly. I don't know if Nissan is buying a software from some other company or if it's all in-house, but either way, it just seems like it's accessible, like it's there, it works, it keeps somebody in the lane, keeps a good distance, and so forth. It doesn't pinball from one side of the lane to the other, so that's actually really nice. However, it doesn't have any advanced features like Tesla or General Motors or Ford, so I would put it in the big wide category of all the other car makers that are catching up. Next up, let's talk about the exterior, which I actually found to be rather bland. The Ariya has a neat horizontal line that continues across the whole car, and that's actually kind of neat, but it's really one of the only features that sort of stood out to me. The angled headlights are cool, I like that a lot, but there's a lot of wide, empty space on this vehicle. Check out these doors, they're huge, they're just like a big mirror. The same thing with the trunk. It makes it look like they want to fit a huge license plate in here. Even the front grille, it kind of has this depth to it, which is rather neat, but in reality, people are just going to see a big black open space. Now, I know that the doors are kind of a popular thing outside of Nissan to have really tall doors and a tiny roof, and I know it could be a lot worse, but for me, it just doesn't speak to my taste. I didn't get to test it for the Ariya, but I'm going to guess that it would not do well on serious off-road. Given the slight advantage of ground clearance and the tall tires, I think it could get to base camp just fine, but with four-wheel drive software specifically tuned to provide comfort on the road, I would be hesitant to really push this 5,000-pound beast into serious terrain. And truthfully, I wouldn't want to. I mean, it feels like a Cadillac on the inside. Now, another thing I really didn't like was the infotainment screen. I found the menu images for each of these to be very distracting. They include a word and an icon, which is fine, but the background for the tiles are all different and they're far too busy. If I'm doing something that requires a lot of attention, like driving a car, this is very intimidating to try to learn where everything is. I imagine it'll take a long time to become adept at this menu. Hopefully, Nissan changes it to something a little higher contrast. Now, I mentioned it before, but the lack of storage in the Ariya, I think that's going to be a major hurdle for someone looking to use this as anything close to an SUV. In my mind, the designation of a crossover means a tall car with a small trunk, and after using the Ariya, that's further ingrained into my mind. Most of us have dealt with a crossover trunk before, and the Ariya isn't terrible, but the absence of a purse or a backpack space in the front kind of opens up that wound all over again. Now, speaking of old wounds, this is Nissan's second EV after the Nissan Leaf, which was released back in 2010. The Leaf was an amazing car for the time, and I wish that the Ariya was a more rapid follow-up, maybe 2015 or something. That would have actually opened up a real competitor for Tesla. Now, Nissan didn't do that, and we are stuck in the particular multiverse where Tesla reigns supreme in EV manufacturing and technology, innovation, and talent. However, Tesla is not the only one, and they're certainly not the best at build quality or interior design. In daily driving or in long drives, the Ariya, it's a dream come true. It's incredibly comfortable, the amenities are thoughtful, the space is intuitive and calming, and the luxuriant materials, they make you feel like $100. I would easily think that the Ariya belonged to the Infinity badge. If you told me it was a Cadillac, I might be a little suspicious. If you venture far off the beaten path in off-road conditions, then maybe the Ariya wouldn't be the best for you, especially if you want to carry a lot of gear. That's really a realistic gray zone for this crossover and actually for many others. It could do a lot of that with good planning or understanding of the actual off-road terrain that you're on, but there's a lot better electric vehicles out there for that purpose today, and many more are on the way. So there's my experience with the Nissan Ariya, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm Mikey for Electrek, and I will see you on the later.